In a world locked in an eternal struggle between good and evil, where humans clash with ferocious beasts, a prestigious goal awaits all who dare to dream: the University of Martial Arts, a gateway to becoming the ultimate defender of the realm. And among the aspiring candidates stands Su Lai, a young man whose reputation precedes him. Adored by his classmates, particularly the enamored girls, he basks in the glory of his unrivaled charm. Little did Su Lai anticipate the unforeseen events that would disrupt his path right before the high school entrance exams. Engrossed in perfecting his kai, the art of cultivation, Su Lai progresses through the levels with remarkable prowess. From the 10th to the 90th, and soaring beyond the 1000th, Su Lai pushes his limits, surpassing the 9,999th level. Perplexed, Su Lai wonders why he can't seem to establish a foundation despite having traversed over 10,000 levels of chai cultivation. His bracelet, a testament to his progress, displays his chi purification at an astonishing 9,999 levels, exceeding the boundaries of the control dimension. Amidst his entire school, Su Lai finds himself the sole individual still engrossed in the process of chai purification. A girl, diligently tracking his indicators, reveals that most of their peers have already embarked on the stage of foundation formation. Once hailed as the epitome of strength, Su Lai finds himself overnight becoming society's discarded refuse. Those he once defeated now mock him, unable to fathom that their former number one could plummet to such depths. Everywhere Su Lai turns, whispers of him lingering at the stage of kai purification assail his ears. Doubts about the benefits of laying the foundation permeate the air. Yet, it is in the arrival of nefarious forces that unexpected alliances are forged. A new threat looms over the people. News reaches Su Lai's school, implicating the presence of followers of the Order of Ermingen within their city. Ermingen, a fearsome sea serpent from Scandinavian mythology, born of Loki and a giant, sends chills down their spines. Code Red, codenamed Angry Boda, reverberates through the halls, urging everyone to brace for the impending danger at level 1. Unbeknownst to them, an imminent peril draws near. Within a small crater lies a woman undergoing medical care, surrounded by a vigilant gathering of students. The world adheres to the notion that lower beings can never triumph over the higher ones, a steadfast rule. But Su Lai refuses to accept such limitations. In the heart of Wuji City, Chapter 1 unfolds in the recreation room of Kailu High School. It's late in the evening, around 0:25, and a faint blue glow emanates from behind the closed doors. Inside the room, a young man diligently performs push-ups, his hands radiating a mysterious blue aura. Counting to 100, he rises to his feet, revealing a well-toned physique, jet-black hair, and captivating eyes of the same color. Determined to push himself further, he resolves aloud to surpass his previous record. Eager for a change, he decides to attempt something different this time. A vibrant blue aura starts to envelop his arm, sparked by the energy bracelet he wears. It notifies him that student Su Li has discovered the art of chi cultivation, and the bracelet begins calculating his chi levels. He surpasses the 10th level, then the 90th, and even the 1000th, leaving Su Li on edge. Astonishingly, the bracelet's count continues to climb until it reaches an unprecedented milestone: 9,999 levels. As the bracelet announces the upper limit of chi purification measurement, an array of error notifications follows. A whirlwind swirls around Su Li, shrouding his hand in a captivating blue aura. Startled, he exclaims that it's happening again, a surge of power. The forceful energy causes his clothes to shred into tatters. Shielding his eyes with one hand and placing the other on his hip, Su Li reflects on the explosion that just occurred. He gazes at his palm, which holds a shattered electronic bracelet crackling with residual lightning. Voicing his thoughts, he ponders whether the bracelet is defective or a counterfeit, considering he's already at the astonishing 9,999th level. Uncertainty lingers in his mind. Suddenly, a voice calls out Su Li's name, demanding an explanation for his intense practice session and questioning the cause of the explosion. The voice insists that Su Li open the door, as his private time has come to an end. Acknowledging the authority of the person outside, Su Li addresses him as the esteemed headmaster before heading towards the door and swinging it open. Standing before him is a girl adorned in a school uniform reminiscent of a sailor's attire. She possessed long, flowing brown hair, neatly tied into two low ponytails, and her eyes shimmered with a warm shade of brown. In her hands, she tightly held a tablet and a pen, conveying a sense of determination. Lu Xing, with an air of disapproval, began reprimanding Sulai, citing multiple instances where other students had complained about him to the teacher. She questioned the young man about the extent to which she had defended him that month. If it weren't for her support after the explosion, everything would have crumbled within the confines of the shelter. Following these words, the girl entered a room where flickering flames danced and smoke ominously billowed. Lu Xing couldn't help but be taken aback by the sheer devastation within the room. She waved her hand before her face, attempting to disperse the smoke from her nostrils, and inquired of Sulai about his activities in the room. With one hand shielding his eyes from the intense glare, the young man explained that the level-determining device had exploded for the 5th time. Preparing to jot down notes on a piece of paper affixed to the tablet, Lu Xing inquired about the stage of cultivation Sulai had reached. To her surprise, Sulai revealed that he was still at the Kai purification stage, while everyone else had already progressed to laying the foundation. The girl expressed her astonishment at this revelation and proceeded to enlighten him about the various stages. Sulai confessed that he had achieved the 10,000th level, to which the girl smiled and playfully teased him about his lack of deception. She informed him that beginners were aware of the 10 levels in the Chai purification stage, with the laying stage surpassing it. Jotting down Sulai's level on a scrap of paper, Lu Xing noticed the presence of others in the room, including herself. Sulai remained silent, standing there as if lost in thought. Sensing his silence, Lu Xing emphasized the importance of solitude for their collective pursuit of admission into a prestigious university. The girl reminded Sulai that the entrance exam for the martial arts university was scheduled for the following month, and only students who had completed the foundation stage were eligible to register. A tinge of sadness crept into Lu Xing's voice as she shared that students from other classes had already progressed to the laying stage. However, while they were under the school's protection, the number of menacing creatures outside was growing day by day. The count had doubled since the previous year. Experts predicted a return to a period of famine that would last for at least 50 years. As the impending period approached, the ferocity of the monsters escalated, and their numbers continued to grow. Lu Xing harbored concerns that the current group of warriors alone would struggle to cope with the challenges ahead. To address this, significant changes were implemented, starting from the entrance exams at the school and extending all the way to university admissions. The resources allocated to students were doubled, and the duration of university studies was reduced to 3 years. However, securing admission to the martial arts university had become even more daunting. Informed of these developments, Sulai listened intently as the girl relayed the information. Closing his eyes, he absorbed every detail and acknowledged his comprehension. With nothing more to add, Lu Xing prepared to depart, wearing a slightly displeased expression. Sulai, feeling the weight of the approaching deadline, vented his frustration by forcefully punching the wall. He had only 1 month remaining, and failure to reach the foundation stage would inevitably dash his hopes of entering the martial arts university. Suddenly, a notification chimed on Sulai's phone. Placing one hand against the wall for support, he retrieved the smartphone with the other and glanced at the messages from Lu Xing. She had sent him a link to the martial arts forum, explaining that it might help him gain clarity. Intrigued, Sulai followed the link and composed a post, seeking solutions to his predicament. He lamented being stuck at the 10,000th level of Qi purification, while others had progressed to laying the foundation after the 10th level. He implored for assistance and sought to dispel his doubts. Beneath his post, he noticed another offering help from a foundation teacher. As Sulai sat against the wall, his anticipation grew, expecting his post to create a sensation. He believed that he might be the sole individual in the world facing this particular problem. The current law of the cultivation world dictated that reaching the 10th level in Qi purification automatically triggered the foundation stage. Therefore, there had to be something amiss in his circumstances. Discontent filled his thoughts, and he yearned for a resolution. Sulai's grip loosened as the phone slipped from his hand, crashing to the ground. With one hand pressed against the wall, he leaned forward, burying his head against its surface. His other hand rested upon his chest, feeling the surge of power coursing through his body. Yet it felt unfocused, dispersed. It seemed to flow in every direction, leaving him puzzled by its enigmatic nature. Sulai couldn't help but question the plausibility of such a phenomenon, even dubbing himself a colander, in disbelief. A resounding announcement echoed through the school's loudspeakers, demanding the immediate gathering of teachers and students at the martial arts stadium within 30 minutes. The entire school erupted into a frenzy, a sea of bodies rushing towards the designated meeting point. Among the chaotic swarm, a towering figure charged up the stairs, bellowing at others to clear a path. He proclaimed that Uncle Ben's leg strength had reached a mere 10%, surpassing their abilities to keep up. If they aspired to be admitted into the prestigious martial arts classes, they needed to push themselves to the limits. At some point during the commotion, this formidable figure overtook Sulai, positioning himself right in front. Towering over Sulai by 2 heads, he possessed a robust frame, complemented by brown hair and eyes. With an accusing finger pointed towards Sulai, he queried if it wasn't the former first-place student calling his name. This imposing presence remarked that Sulai appeared disheveled, but Sulai couldn't help but smirk, likening himself to a Lawson, as he playfully inquired about the big guy's name. Sulai playfully assumed it to be Zhao Sha, which translated to stupid. The comment ignited a flame of anger within the towering figure, prompting him to retort vehemently. He identified himself as Zhu Tao, demanding that Sulai remember his name. Sulai, maintaining his cool, countered by addressing him as Wu, a deliberate mispronunciation of his name, teasing him further. In the midst of their exchange, Zhu Tao brought up their previous encounter, vividly recalling how he had sat atop Sulai, forcefully gripping his t-shirt collar while delivering a blow to his face. Onlookers chimed in, sharing that Zhu Tao had been relentlessly seeking out Sulai for a rematch all week, only to be met with defeat every time. They labeled Zhu Tao as thick-skinned, and some even pondered if he derived masochistic pleasure from his repeated failures. Fueling Zhu Tao's fury, his lackeys revealed that they had been spying on Sulai's progress reports. Sulai, still in the early stages of Kai purification, caused Zhu Tao to smirk with superiority, believing that Sulai's level would humble him. The towering figure sneered, mocking Sulai openly, and declared that nobody could have foreseen how their former #1 contender would ultimately amount to nothing more than a disappointment after the entrance exams. Continuing the confrontation, he boldly proclaimed that not only could he lay the foundation, but he would also surpass Zhu Tao, who was only at the 3rd level. Sulai's swift progression from the purification stage to the 3rd level of foundation laying within a month left everyone astonished. They couldn't believe that Sulai had already reached the Kai purification stage. Confidence swelled within Zhu Tao as he believed victory was imminent. In their world, it was an unspoken rule that the strong always prevailed over the weak. Zhu Tao recalled a teacher's advice, urging him to persist and catch up with Sulai in a few years. Memories flooded his mind. Zhu Tao clutching a bouquet of scarlet roses, the girl of his affection favoring Su Li over him. Zhu Tao, driven by frustration, grabbed Sulai's chest, venting about being overlooked by teachers and rejected by the girl he liked, all because of Sulai's presence. In response, Sulai calmly suggested that perhaps Zhu Tao's struggles were due to his own lack of effort. Growing angrier, Zhu Tao enveloped himself in flames, raising his fist, ready to strike. Sulai, enveloped in a resolute blue aura, recognized the immense power of his 3rd-level foundation laying. In a defensive stance, Sulai clenched his fists at chest level, prepared to face Zhu Tao head-on. As Zhu Tao charged toward him, his eyes widened in surprise. Before he could reach Sulai, he crashed against the wall, screaming in pain. His bewildered henchman rushed to his side, questioning his well-being. Sulai himself was unsure of what had just occurred, as it contradicted the notion that the purification stage could never surpass the laying stage. The young man pondered the mysterious reason behind Zhu Tao's sudden flight towards the wall. The girls claimed it was a display of his unrivaled strength, asserting that even in the purification stage, he could defeat someone in the laying stage. Perplexed, the young man turned away, pulling up his hood, and walked in the opposite direction. One of Zhu Tao's lackeys accused him of mistreating their boss and fleeing, warning Sulai that they would report everything to their teacher. Another henchman chimed in, mentioning that there were witnesses around. Sulai halted, and with a smile, asked the other students if they had seen how he mistreated Zhu Tao. They countered, stating that Zhu Tao might have been the one who struck and flew away, as how could someone in the purification stage overpower the laying stage? The young man continued walking, wearing a smile while closing his eyes. Sulai decided to attend the gathering first, hoping that the teacher might provide answers to his questions. Meanwhile, Ju Tao leaned over, feeling unwell. People had already gathered at the meeting spot, and occasional birds fluttered by. Sulai followed the path illuminated in a vibrant blue hue towards a portal of the same color. A floating loudspeaker extended its greetings, wishing Sulai success in the entrance exams, and urging everyone to support each other in the future. Sulai couldn't help but worry that if the issue regarding the laying stage remained unresolved, it might hinder his chances of enrollment. Soon after, the young man found himself on the training grounds of Kaiwan High School, amidst the 100th admission ceremony. Word spread that Sulai had finally arrived. He approached a tall teacher with glasses, who happened to be the supervisor of the third group in the third year, Mr. Sun Huawei. Mr. Sun inquired about Sulai's month-long seclusion, asking how it had been. The young man admitted encountering a minor problem. Adjusting his glasses, the teacher assured him that he would assess his progress during that period. As Mr. Sun approached Sulai, a faint blue aura enveloped them, accompanied by a gentle breeze. The teacher was taken aback, his hair standing on end around the bald patch on his head. In that moment, the man's mind swirled with thoughts, pondering the density of each breath. Even the director seemed incapable of performing such a basic task at this level. He couldn't help but wonder why Sulai remained in the purification stage, while Sun Huawei stood there with unkempt hair. Sulai, sensing the man's contemplation, mentioned a recent technological breakthrough and proposed an idea. Would the teacher be willing to try a hair-saving technique? In response, the teacher swiftly slapped the young man's face with a notebook, urging him to focus on himself instead of worrying about others. The martial arts university had already introduced the students to the school, leaving only a month until the exams commenced. Within this time frame, Sulai had to progress from the purification stage to the laying stage. Otherwise, he would be forced to change his specialty, an admonition previously given by Sun Hu. Despite Sulai's concerns, the teacher reassured him that everything would fall into place. After all, Sulai's future extended beyond the confines of the school. Sun Huij placed a reassuring hand on the young man's shoulder and informed him that once he regained his composure, the kingdom's trial would begin. Sulai had the option to leave on his own terms, providing any reason he wished, as his cultivation base remained unknown to the others. He didn't need to disclose it either. The young man yearned to voice his thoughts, but the teacher interrupted, confident that Sulai wouldn't give up so easily. Intrigued, Sun Huid inquired about the level of Sulai's Kai purification. In response, Sulai revealed he had reached the 10,000th level. The teacher expressed astonishment, seeking confirmation of the level once more. However, their conversation was abruptly halted by a piercing scream, followed by a heavy impact on the training ground, shrouding the area in a cloud of dust. Urgent pleas for assistance echoed as Sun Huawei and Su Li sprinted towards the source. There, within a small crater, lay a woman with black hair, glasses, and tattered clothing. Sun Huawei immediately began attending to her injuries, while medical personnel swiftly approached with a stretcher. Meanwhile, the teacher conveyed the severity of the woman's wounds, indicating that they were likely inflicted by someone in the peak of the laying stage. Sulai's curiosity was piqued, prompting him to inquire further. Suddenly, a flash of light streaked across the sky, captivating the attention of the students, who eagerly beckoned others to witness the arrival of the school's headmaster, as rumors had suggested. One man let out a weary yawn, expressing his overwhelming fatigue. He happened to be a school security guard, seated not far from his colleague, who was also on duty. Leaning his back against the window, the fatigued guard revealed that he had endured a sleepless night. He requested his companion to keep watch while he took a brief nap. However, his request was met with disapproval as his colleague reminded him of their working hours. Undeterred, the sleep-deprived guard assured his companion not to worry, claiming that the strongest individuals from Kailu High School had gathered, implying that nothing untoward was likely to occur. With his cap shielding his eyes, the guard settled into a chair, preparing to doze off. Unbeknownst to him, a group of 5 individuals appeared outside the window. Standing in front was a tall, muscular man with blonde hair, sporting a distinctive scar across his forehead and left eye. Flanking him were 2 young men who exchanged smirks as they observed the resting guard. Behind them stood 2 more individuals, one wearing glasses and the other a guy. Curiosity prompted the other guard to inquire whether they were students of the school since their presence seemed unfamiliar. He further requested them to display their student identification cards. The blonde-haired man grinned, clenching his teeth tightly. Without warning, he crashed through the wall, shattering the window in the process. Seizing the unsuspecting guard, he forcefully pinned him to the floor, ridiculing the guard's lack of understanding that strength grants access anywhere. The man's eyes turned completely red and emitted an eerie glow. Trembling with fear, the second guard desperately reached for the radio, realizing the urgency of the situation and the need to report it immediately. Meanwhile, the first guard hung limply, held by the blonde man, as if he were a lifeless doll. Suddenly, the individual who had stood beside the assailant before the attack entered the room. His eyes mirrored the same ominous red glow as the blonde man's. Smiling wickedly, he effortlessly hurled a small stone towards the guard. The stone, propelled with inhuman strength, struck the guard's head, interrupting his attempt to seek help via the radio. A splatter of blood and the guard's motionless hand froze inches away from the device. The intruders proceeded with their unsettling smiles, leaving the lifeless bodies of the guards in their wake. Chapter 2. The students of the school stood in astonishment as the director made his dramatic appearance. Murmurs spread among them, speculating that the ability to soar on a golden sword could only be attained upon reaching the golden pill. The principal of Cayman School cut an imposing figure, with his long gray hair, thick gray mustache, and an air of wisdom. Draped in an elongated jacket and a white scarf, he commanded respect. His name was Wu Defat, the esteemed principal of Kailuan School. As the disciples glanced at their principal, their eyes brimming with ambition, they yearned to attain the coveted golden pill and advance swiftly in their martial arts journey. Just then, the director arrived, perched atop a majestic golden sword. In the midst of this spectacle, a woman who had landed in a crater regained consciousness briefly, murmuring cryptically about Ermenkand and the clutches of death before losing consciousness again. Recognizing the urgency, the principal directed the doctors to attend to her immediately. In a surprising turn of events, the principal also announced the suspension of the centennial test ceremony, a revered tradition honoring admission to the University of Martial Arts. The students were taken aback, their murmurs filling the air. It was clear that something grave had occurred, as such an interruption had never happened since the founding of Kailuan School. Concerns arose among the students, anxious that their upcoming entrance exams might be affected. Stepping into the center of the arena, the principal urged the students to remain composed and disciplined. With a resolute voice, Wu Defat revealed that news had just reached the school implicating the Ermenkand order in the incident. To ensure everyone's safety, the school would enforce restrictions on leaving the premises. He cautioned the students against acting rashly and called upon the curators to protect their charges. With utmost seriousness, the principal emphasized the importance of following instructions and maintaining order. The students were taken aback by the revelation of the Ermenkand order's involvement. Whispers spread, warning of the order's ruthless tactics and their willingness to eliminate cultivators. Fear gripped their hearts, for the reason behind the Ermenkand order's presence in Wuji City remained shrouded in mystery. As the disciples anxiously hoped for their safety, someone in the crowd grabbed Sulai's arm, bringing him to a halt. He turned to see Lu Xing, a smile playing on her lips as she beckoned him onward. Confused, Sulai inquired about their destination. Lu Xing spoke of a unique opportunity that only comes once in a lifetime, a chance related to his entrance exams. Before long, they found themselves in a secluded garden. Lu Xing revealed that a reward had been offered for a mission in Wuji City. The stakes were high, as Ermenkand planned to invade their school. Sulai listened intently, his heart racing with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. She tightly gripped a rolled-up tube of paper in her hands as she spoke to Sulai. Her words carried a promise. If he could apprehend the members of Ermenkand, renowned martial arts university would acknowledge his strength and eagerly accept him. In her other hand, she held an unfolded piece of paper bearing information about the world search for the Order of Ermenkand. Depicted beneath the inscription were 5 individuals, all marked by a snake-shaped tattoo, and 8 coiling from their necks to their left shoulders and collarbones. A handsome reward of 1 million was offered for their capture. Curiosity piqued, Sulai questioned how she came across such valuable intel. Lu Xing revealed her parents' occupation as law enforcement officers and their guidance to remain vigilant. Assuring Sulai of her ability to locate capable allies, she leaned in closer and whispered that they would split the reward equally. This proposition ensured everyone's benefit, including Sulai's assured enrollment into the esteemed University of Martial Arts. In that fleeting moment, both individuals found themselves conflicted. Sulai discarded the paper, adamant about his decision to decline the offer. He simply desired to return to his dormitory. His rationale stemmed from his current stage of Kai purification. If he were to confront such dangerous criminals, he knew it would undoubtedly result in his demise, for he was far from foolish. Displeased with his response, Lu Xing expressed her mercy as she felt it. However, Sulai failed to appreciate her kindness. Frustration etched on her face, she let out a frustrated stamp of her foot and called him an idiot. Meanwhile, another student alerted Teacher Sun to the unfolding problems. Sun Huawei rushed over, inquiring about the situation. The student happened to be Zhu Tao's protege, and explained that Sulai and Zhu Tao had engaged in a heated argument, resulting in several broken ribs and blood-stained vomit. They were left weakened and drained. Concerned, Sun Huawei asked if they had received assistance before requesting to be led to them. The young man agreed to guide Sun Huawei, who silently acknowledged that Sulai was still in the midst of Kai purification and clearly outmatched by Zhu Tao. Harnessing his power, Sun Huawei enveloped himself in a swirling blue vortex, scooped up Zhu Tao's protege, and together, propelled by his formidable abilities, they raced towards the location of the confrontation. In the third-year building of Kailuan High School's men's dormitory, a tall gray structure reminiscent of a residential building, a group of individuals gathered. Among them was a man named Al-Ma, recognizable by the scar on his face. Al-Ma revealed their current mission to his companions within a tight time frame of 24 hours. They needed to eliminate the observer for the entrance exams at Kailuan Huang Hala School. It was a risky task as Al-Ma himself was on the wanted list. Accompanying Al-Ma were several others. A man sporting black round glasses known as Magic Sang, a brown-haired individual named Wang Yi, a short red-haired young man called Xing Guang, and a long-haired guy with purple locks. Nang Yangwei Al-Ma, casually draping his arms over Magic Sang and Wang Yi, suggested that the men's dormitory served as an excellent hiding spot. He believed that the school teachers would never suspect them to be located there. Confident in their abilities, Alma asserted that they alone were responsible for accomplishing the mission. Their cultivation prowess was formidable enough to handle any potential encounters with the teachers, ensuring that they had the observer within their grasp. Alma emphasized the importance of their success, cautioning his companions that severe consequences awaited them if they repeated past mistakes by allowing someone to escape. With his instructions given, Alma set the plan in motion. Magic Sang and Xing Guang gracefully leaped onto the ceiling, skillfully navigating their way forward. Wang Yi and Liang Yongwei swiftly moved ahead on the floor. Meanwhile, Alma remained stationary, an air of triumphant confidence radiating from him as he placed his hands on his hips. In another room of the dormitory, a young man named Su Li sat quietly. Suddenly, a notification appeared on his phone, a new comment on his post. Filled with excitement, Su Li realized his post was gaining popularity, evident from the burgeoning number of comments. One comment in particular caught his attention. It came from a young man named Meng Hui, who introduced himself as having a basic level of cultivation. Meng Hui expressed skepticism regarding Su Li's claims of reaching the 10,000th level of purification in Kai Sulai. Meng Hui resided in the Martial Arts University dormitory, specifically in room 101. With dark blue hair bordering on black and glasses perched on his nose, Meng Hui communicated through a computer on the forum. Su Li replied, confirming the truth of his previous claims. He was met with a response advising him to grasp the fundamental importance of reaching the 10th level of Qi purification, regardless of one's skill set, as it forms the foundation for cultivation. Meng Hui, in his writing, also suggested that if Sulai truly possessed a 10,000th level, as he claimed, then he must possess inexhaustible energy. This led Sulai to contemplate the idea that he might have an immense reserve of energy, and could potentially become invincible. Meng Hui further proposed the need to verify the reliability of the device used for measurements. Amidst his laughter, Sulai pondered why he should even bother responding to such messages. He regarded the current applicants as somewhat inadequate, and his gaze exuded arrogance. Following the conversation, Sulai nonchalantly placed his phone face down on the table, thinking that it didn't matter since nobody believed him. He then left his room, numbered 521. As he strolled down the corridor, Sulai noticed an unusual silence enveloping the surroundings. Concerned about the possible arrival of the Order of Ermingen, he decided to seek refuge in a safe location. It was then that he caught sight of Wang Yi walking down the same corridor. Sulai wondered if there were supposed to be other people in the dormitory at that time. Intrigued by Wang Yi's presence, Sulai contemplated who this person might be. He couldn't recall ever seeing him before. Wang. Sulai felt relieved that he had worn a windbreaker over his school uniform, which helped conceal his identity. Otherwise, he surely would have been recognized. Sulai remained silent, but noted that Wang's choice of attire should warrant a deduction of points. Suddenly, it dawned on Sulai that he had forgotten to cover up his tattoo, and he assumed that Wang had recognized him. Inquiring about her, Wang's words left Sulai puzzled. Although he suspected that Wang intended to provoke a quarrel, he couldn't comprehend the reason behind his actions. Nonetheless, Sulai reluctantly agreed to engage with him. With a fierce grin, Wang swiftly removed his windbreaker, revealing a black and red aura emanating from his body. His eyes turned a deep shade of red as he declared that he had no other option but to kill Sulai. Taken aback by this unexpected turn, Sulai realized that Wang He was about to launch an attack, emphasizing that Sulai's level of Kai purification alone would not be sufficient for survival. Sulai's gaze fixated on the snake tattoo adorning Wang He's neck, triggering a sense of familiarity within him. In an instant, Lu Xing's earlier display of wanted individuals flashed through his mind, and one of them featured a vague silhouette resembling Wang Yi. Realization dawned upon the young man. Wang He hailed from Erminkand. Before he could react, Wang Yi lunged forward, preparing to strike. In a swift motion, Sulai managed to evade the attack, but the force behind it propelled him into the wall, causing it to crumble. Sulai turned to observe the wreckage, contemplating the immense strength possessed by Wang He. If struck by such power, it could prove fatal. Undeterred, Wang He raised both his hands, forming a lock, intent on launching a surprise attack, confident that Sulai wouldn't be able to defend himself properly. It seemed like the end was near. Suddenly, Sulai's eyes sparked with a mesmerizing blue glow, enveloping him completely. This extraordinary phenomenon halted Wang Yi's assault, leaving him bewildered and clueless about what had just transpired. Chapter 3 unfolded as Sulai, proclaiming his aura, effortlessly flung Wang Yi aside. The bewildered opponent questioned if the young man truly possessed the level of Kai purification. Even among the esteemed representatives of the Golden Pill, Wang He had never witnessed such potent energy. Sulai was shrouded in a protective blue aura, captivating Wang Yi's attention. Wang He confronted Sulai, grabbing his t-shirt collar, and brazenly demanded to know how he dare behave in such a manner. The audacity of this young man infuriated Wang He, who believed Sulai was no match for him in terms of Kai purification. With a fiery aura embracing him, Wang He unleashed a relentless assault, employing the formidable fist of the meteor lion against his opponent. In the midst of the barrage, Wang Yi remained convinced of his impending victory. Sulai skillfully defended himself, employing an aura to shield his body, adopting a defensive stance with folded hands. The young man understood that his sole option was to protect himself from the onslaught. Wang He, perplexed by the situation, struggled to comprehend his immobility, suspecting that Sulai was absorbing his power. Moreover, the young man was enveloped in a seemingly boundless energy, further perplexing Wang He. It appeared that Sulai possessed an inexhaustible reservoir of strength. Sulai focused his energy, channeling it into his clenched fist, ready to strike. With a swift motion, he attacked Wang Yi, who was sent flying into the wall, causing the floor to crack beneath him. Sulai was taken aback by the unexpected outcome. Approaching Wang Yi, he discovered the young man lying unconscious, blood staining the wall. Confused, Sulai pondered what could be wrong with Wang Yi, pacing back and forth in front of him. How could he have defeated someone with such a solid foundation? Something seemed amiss. Sulai contemplated whether it had to do with his own overwhelming energy. He recalled his previous correspondence with Meng Hui, discussing his seemingly infinite supply of power. It occurred to Sulai that Wanki's blood began to boil during their battle. Could it be that he had suffered a heart attack due to some medication he took? Sulai lightly tapped his right fist against his left palm, chalking it up to luck. He decided it wouldn't be wise to leave Wanki lying in the corridor, as his allies might stumble upon him. Pulling the hood of his windbreaker over his head, Sulai firmly grasped Wanki's hair and began dragging him away. Meanwhile, Sun Huawei, an esteemed academic figure, and his disciple soared through the air on a blue sword generated by the teacher's power. They landed near Zhu Tao, who sat on the ground with a dent in the wall behind him, accompanied by his subordinate. Sun Huawei surveyed the scene, perplexed by the immense destructive force that caused the damage. Retrieving a round pill from his vest pocket, the teacher sat down in front of Zhu Tao, administering it to him while inquiring about the events that unfolded. A soothing green aura enveloped the young man, facilitating the healing of his wounds. At that moment, Zhu Tao explained that he and Sulai had engaged in an argument. He never anticipated it would escalate to such a serious extent, and before Zhu Tao could fully comprehend the situation, he found himself slammed against the wall. Sun Huawei couldn't fathom how someone at the third stage of foundation laying could be affected by Kai purification. It seemed implausible. Zhu Tao's followers began discussing how Sulai remained at the Kai purification level and questioned how he managed to defeat Zhu Tao. They suspected him of resorting to underhanded methods, leading Sun Huawei to contemplate taking action. The teacher believed that after teaching them for 3 years, his students underestimated his understanding of their capabilities. They were capable of more than they realized. He assured them that his first priority was to take Zhu Tao to a secure location while he handled everything else. As Zhu Tao and one of his subordinates, who held him tightly, departed, the teacher watched them leave, while the second subordinate respectfully bid farewell to Sun Hueda. Curiosity sparked, and someone approached the teacher and inquired about what had unfolded. He turned around, waving his arms dismissively, stating it was merely a minor scuffle between students. His attention was suddenly drawn to 2 individuals who entered his line of sight. The first was a woman with an alluring figure, lustrous black hair styled in a square cut, and glasses. She donned a crisp white shirt and a form-fitting black skirt, with a red bandage adorning her forearm. Standing beside her was a robust man with black hair, dressed in a white shirt and black trousers, sporting sunglasses. The woman, addressing Teacher Sun, informed him that the mission had been upgraded to a higher rank, indicating that other formidable assassins had reached the 3rd level of Foundation building. Moreover, they were armed with deadly weapons, prompting her to caution him to be vigilant. The teacher pondered the significance of this elevated ranked mission. Such missions had become rare in recent years, indicating that Ermingen must have made thorough preparations. Glancing at the observation room, he noticed several tables occupied by computer chairs and PCs. Sun Huawei stood near one of the tables, his gaze fixed on the computer monitor. Thoughts of Sulai crossed his mind, silently praying for a future life devoid of encountering him. Additionally, he considered Zhu Tao's awareness of Sulai's problems, knowing that Zhu Tao had previously held a higher position. It created a sense of imbalance. The teacher watched a video capturing the fight between Zhu Tao and Sulai, particularly the moment when Zhu Tao threw his opponent. Sun Huawei marveled at Sulai's ability to defeat a young man at the 3rd level of the Foundation building. He contemplated the idea of sudden strikes, where a surge of energy could reach critical levels, delivering a potent blow capable of overpowering an opponent whose rank was significantly higher. However, such occurrences were exceedingly rare. Meditating on the cultivation levels of Qi purification, Foundation building, Golden Pill Union, Transformation, Return, Deliverance, Mahayana, and Disaster, Sun Huawei powered off the computer. He resolved to assist Su Li, acknowledging his exceptional abilities, by facilitating his admission to the martial arts university. At that moment, unbeknownst to the teacher, Xing Guang of the Ermingen Order silently traversed the ceiling above him. He clutched a dagger between his teeth, the glint catching Sun Huawei's eye as it reflected on the computer monitor. Suddenly, Xing Guang leaped forward, launching an attack at their teacher. Reacting swiftly, Sun Huawei conjured an emerald-hued energy in his right hand, creating a protective shield to intercept Xing Guang's assault. The force of the shield caused the dagger to be forcefully dislodged from the assailant's grip, sending him sprawling backward. As Xingguang landed on his feet, a wide grin spread across his face. He nonchalantly explained to the teacher that he had initially entered the observation room with the intention of finding some information, never expecting to encounter anyone there. Sun Huawei, however, was incensed upon noticing a tattoo on the guy's body. The teacher, raising his voice, disclosed the truth about their undercover mission and the need for arming themselves. A red-haired man interjected, vowing that the intruder couldn't be allowed to leave alive, and swiftly assumed a fighting stance, enveloping himself in circles of orange lightning, while Sun Huawei's aura shimmered emerald. With a swift and furious assault, Xingguang launched a barrage of punches, elbow strikes, and kicks. Yet Sun Huawei skillfully defended himself, his shield materializing as a hazy, swirling circle, deflecting each blow. As the final attack approached, the teacher shielded himself, forming a protective barrier with his hands. In a surprising turn of events, Sun Huawei seized the red-haired man's fist with his left hand, leaving him momentarily stunned. Harnessing his power, Sun Huawei channeled energy through his right arm, enveloping it in a potent aura. With a swift and precise strike, he drove his hand into Xingguang's abdomen, propelling him forcefully into the wall, causing significant damage. Blood gushed from the intruder's mouth as he crumpled to the floor, clutching his solar plexus in agony, his eyes filled with intense anger. In that moment, the red-haired man realized the sheer strength of Sun Huawei, recognizing that he had few options left. In a last act of defiance, Xingguang produced graphite-colored spheres from his pocket, menacingly promising the teacher retribution later. He swiftly tossed the balls onto the floor, unleashing a thick cloud of smoke that shrouded the immediate area. Sun Huawei, filled with determination, understood the urgency of reporting the intrusion by Erminkand into the school campus. His gaze hardened with resolve. Meanwhile, in Chapter 4, within the male dormitory of Kailuan's school, Liang Yongwei and Majik Singh found themselves in one of the rooms. The black-haired man, curiosity etched on his face, inquired about Wang Yi's delayed return. He stood there puffing on a pipe, his eyes searching for answers. Liang Yongwei, wearing a mischievous smirk, playfully suggested that perhaps Wang Yi had met his demise. Majik Singh, undeterred, responded with certainty, stating that Wang Yi, being a 9th-rank cultivator, wasn't so easily defeated. Determined to uncover the truth, Majik Singh revealed his intention to follow Wang Yi, confiding in his friend. Meanwhile, the black-haired man stepped outside the office, voicing his admiration for Liang Yongwei, who had recently achieved the prestigious Golden Pill rank and displayed great bravery. Yet, Majik Singh remained confident that both he and Wang Yi would soon catch up to Liang Yongwei's accomplishments. As Majik Singh turned a corner in the corridor, his gaze fell upon an astonishing sight. He was taken aback as he witnessed Wang Yi, battered and lifeless, being dragged by a young man, leaving a trail of blood behind. Filled with shock, Majik Singh quickly concealed himself behind the safety of the corner. Trembling with fear, Majik Singh speculated that this young man might be flaunting his victory over Wang Yi. The situation seemed dire, as Majik Singh realized that this opponent was no pushover, having single-handedly overcome Wang Yi. Fearful of meeting a similar fate, Majik Singh found himself compelled to take action, driven by the absence of other options. With a quick motion, he retrieved an object from his inner breast pocket, concealed in flames. It was a gun. Memories of Majik Singh's conversation with Alma resurfaced, a blonde man entrusting a black-haired man with the weapon. The gun, a cutting-edge creation by Ermengarde, possessed the ability to absorb spiritual power and unleash it with tremendous force, surpassing the strength of ordinary cultivators by multiple folds. Majik Singh wore a wide smile, his teeth clenched tightly as he anticipated the incredible power of his shot, even surpassing the potency of his golden pill period. With a sudden burst of energy, he leaped out from around the corner, determined to defeat the young man, his gun ready to unleash its deadly force. The onlookers outside the hostel sensed the ominous energy gathering, while the bullet soared towards the young man's head with ferocity. However, to everyone's surprise, it narrowly missed its mark, grazing the wall beside Majik Singh's head, causing him to flinch, before finally clattering to the floor at the young man's feet. The young man, known as Sulai, removed his hood, completely unharmed by the bullet. Bewildered by what had transpired, he turned around to inspect the peculiar occurrence. Sulai's eyes locked onto the bullet lodged in the cracked floor, contemplating it as nothing more than a mere piece of iron, while pondering its origin. A crowd had gathered near the hostel, including director Wudafa and teacher Sun Huawei. The director informed the teacher that he had also sensed fluctuations in power, suspecting the involvement of Ermengarde. Sun Huawei agreed, recounting his own encounter with one of them in the training building. The notion that they could be lurking anywhere lingered in their minds until a disturbance arose from the nearby forest. The director, conjuring a golden sphere in his hands, called out to the presence, demanding to know who was there. Emerging from the bushes, Lu Xing appeared, waving her hands in greeting to the principal and teacher. Astonished by the girl's sudden arrival, they inquired about how she ended up in that location. Lu Xing explained that she had been searching for Sulai, fearing he might be in danger. Tension filled the air as the teacher anxiously questioned her about Sulai's whereabouts, concerned that he might still be inside the dormitory. A bespectacled woman joined them outside the hostel, contemplating their next move, as it seemed highly likely that the young man had already encountered members of the Yermungand. Sun Huawei turned to leave, but the director intervened, cautioning him against reckless actions, emphasizing that the person responsible for releasing such formidable energy was no less than a golden pill-ranked individual. Despite the warning, the determined teacher pressed forward, stating that one of their students was still inside and in need of assistance. As he contemplated the situation, he realized that even if Sulai employed the technique he used against Zhu Tao during their fight, it wouldn't be of much help against an opponent of golden pill rank. The director of DEF cleared his throat, trying to catch the teacher's attention, but it went unnoticed. Meanwhile, the school's headmaster appeared before Sun Huawei, stating that as the headmaster, he couldn't let the matter rest and summoned his golden sword, declaring he would take the lead. A man and a woman produced black sticks concealed behind their backs and hips, as directed by the director, who cautioned them to follow cautiously. Together, they entered the dormitory. At the same time, Su Li spotted Magic Sang in front of him and suspected that he was responsible for dropping the bullet. Anxiety washed over him as he noticed a revolver in Magic Sang's hand, fearing that the man had decided to kill him. Magic Sang trembled in fear, struggling to motivate himself to move. Believing he had failed and needed to make a swift exit, he worried that Sulai might launch an attack and subject him to torture, ensuring his demise wouldn't be painless. Sulai scrutinized the man intently, initially perplexed by his actions. In the young man's view, the man began tossing pieces of iron and then hitting himself. Did he truly want the young man to escape? Squeezing the bullet tightly in his hand, Sulai felt grateful towards Magic and spoke aloud. Expressing his gratitude, he acknowledged that defeating his opponent might be beyond him, but he couldn't let everything end like this. The man remained perplexed by his words. Meanwhile, Su Li prepared to strike, executing a swift swing with the hand holding the bullet. The young man intended to use the iron fragment as a distraction and seized the opportunity to overcome his foe. Sulai hurled the bullet at the man, shouting that he was returning the favor. Magic Sang stood frozen, consumed by fear and silently pleading for help. He wondered why he couldn't move. Suddenly, the bullet passed through Magic Sang's body, causing him to go limp and collapse. Surprised by his success, the young man pondered if he possessed talents he had previously overlooked. He found himself in a tough situation, facing not just one, but two intruders. Sulai's attention was drawn to a revolver lying near one of the fallen men. Its energy seemed to radiate, captivating him. With a confident smile, he decided to claim the impressive weapon, believing it could prove useful in the future. Meanwhile, Liang Yanghui remained hidden, observing the youth's actions. He couldn't comprehend how this young man had managed to defeat Wang Yi and Magic's Liang Yang. Knowing that engaging in direct combat would surely lead to his demise, he was torn between fleeing and the risks of a stealthy attack. As he prepared to strike, gathering energy in his hand, an interruption came from someone's voice echoing up the stairs, where both he and Sulai were located. Liang Yangwei realized that one of the owners of the coveted golden pill was approaching, leaving him with no choice but to retreat. Dispersing the energy with a swift motion, he quickly made his way towards the corridor. Meanwhile, Sulai carefully concealed the gun, tucking it into his belt around his waist. Contemplating his options, Sulai understood that if those who came to assist him discovered the bodies lying around, they might mistake him for one of the Ermengarde members. Pondering his next move, an idea struck him. He decided to improvise, making it appear as though the fallen men had turned against each other, and he had merely stumbled upon the aftermath. With determination, Sulai positioned the bodies side by side. He clenched Wang Yi's left hand into a fist, placing it on Magic Sang's forehead, while holding Magic Sang's right hand clenched to his chest. Just as he finished arranging the scene, the director stormed into the corridor from the stairs. Startled by the presence of the young man, the director questioned him, curious about his origin and purpose in that place. Sulai awkwardly laughed in response, but before he could explain, an explosion shattered the silence, blowing out a nearby window. Seizing the opportunity, Liang Yangwei leaped through the shattered glass, escaping into the unknown. As he touched down, his gaze lingered on the dormitory building. Moving towards the wall, he activated a pulsating surge of purple energy in his hand, which cascaded around him. Liang Yangwei's grin widened, intensifying the summoning of his power and channeling it into the structure. With this newfound energy, he could perceive the whereabouts and actions of the inhabitants inside the hostel. The energy also unveiled a mysterious and enigmatic dragon, situated in an unfathomable realm. A scene of warfare unfolded before him. A valiant man engaged in a futile battle against the dragon, meeting an effortless defeat. Through the portal that materialized within the dormitory, the dragon peered out with its fiery red eye. Sulai greeted the principal, the teacher, and the headman who had approached him, sensing a pivotal moment drawing near. The young man anticipated that they would comprehend the gravity of the situation. The principal approached the fallen bodies, seeking answers from Sulai. An air of tension enveloped the scene as Sulai froze, apprehension evident in his eyes. The principal turned, fixing a stern gaze upon him. At that very moment, a radiant golden energy encased Sulai, emanating a vibrant glow. Swiftly, the principal directed it towards the young man, who instinctively shielded himself and began to explain his perceived error. Yet amidst his fear, Sulai sensed that this energy held no threat to him. An overwhelming dread gripped him, fearing the director's potential actions. In his mind, Wudafao contemplated Sulai's status, believing he was still at the stage of Kai purification and speculating that someone else was accountable for the tragic deaths. Clearing his throat, Wudafao urged the young man to leave the premises, cautioning him of the impending danger that lurked. Drawing upon his own energy, the director delved into the victims' states, discovering that they were at the foundational stage. Bewilderment etched across his face. He grappled to comprehend how both of them could have been slain simultaneously. He initiated a careful examination of their bodies. First, he examined Wang He, observing that his body had not undergone a transformation and bore signs of frequent assault. Wang He had relied on nerve-stimulating drugs throughout the year, and his demise resulted from a rupture of the soul. Turning his attention to Magic Sang's wounds, Wudafa discerned a fatal blow, inflicted by an individual of at least golden pill level. It became clear that Sulai was unequivocally innocent. The director pulled back Magic Sang's collar, revealing a tattoo that confirmed their affiliation with Yermungand. The man's furrowed gaze hinted at his deep concern. Def firmly planted his sword into the ground, signifying a momentary pause. The director pondered what he should examine, seeking any possible clues, for the unexpected presence of the Yermungand members at the school demanded an explanation. Adjusting his gloves, the man delved into the pockets of the deceased, retrieving a collection of pills. He meticulously noted that the Dabu pill, the Sisui pill, and the Tianling pill were all unsuitable. Placing the pills inside the vest's breast pocket, he observed Sulai, who voiced skepticism about the director's motives. Sulai suggested that the young man might find the pills useful if the director had no need for them. However, the director's attention was diverted when he discovered something inside Wang He's pants pocket, a peculiar black cube with glowing red inclusions. It was, as Def described, a tetragonal seal. Knowing only a specialist could decipher it, the director concluded that the seal's sturdy material rendered a simple breakage impossible. He entrusted teacher Sun Huida with the seal, requesting its transportation to the laboratory for examination and eventual opening. The teacher accepted the responsibility, but as fate would have it, the cube slipped from his grasp, hitting the floor before rebounding and striking Sulai's sneakers. The unexpected impact caused the seal to explode. The spectacle left everyone astounded. Sun Huide speculated that Sulai's energy might have triggered the incident once again. Sulai, seated on the floor, reached out for the remnants of the cube, adamantly asserting his innocence in the mishap. Meanwhile, the young man contemplated the contradictory nature of the seal, having been told of its difficulty to open, yet witnessing its sudden unraveling. He retrieved a small red flashlight from within the shattered cube, recognizing it as a communicator. Reacting swiftly, the director confiscated it. Udef confidently claimed that the cipher was not overly complex, and that he could decipher it effortlessly. Channeling his power, the director held the communicator above his palm, causing its light to turn green, granting access. To the amazement of those present, a hologram materialized, an individual donning robes and bearing the distinctive Ermingen tattoo. In the aftermath of Wang Hayabo's unexpected visit to Kailu's school, the order members convened to strategize. They concluded that while the supervisor of the entrance exams had arrived, they should send 2 individuals to divert attention and eliminate the observer. The rest of the team would proceed with their original plan, which involved destroying the energy collection tower. As the man in the rope addressed the members of the Order of Ermingen, he emphasized the importance of executing the mission flawlessly. With those final words, the recording abruptly ended, and the hologram vanished. The director wasted no time in informing everyone that the observer was merely a decoy. The true objective of the Ermingen was the destruction of the energy tower. Furthermore, he revealed that the 2 defeated individuals were merely pawns in their grand scheme. The director stressed the significance of their mission, explaining that if successful, the collapse of the tower would render approximately 60% of the city's buildings unusable, cutting off its energy supply. Additionally, he warned that the tower contained an immense amount of energy that, upon its release, would unleash a force equivalent to an atomic bomb, wreaking havoc throughout the entire city. Tension filled the room as the director proclaimed that Wuji City was the real target. In Chapter 6, Su Li raised his hand and addressed the director, posing a crucial question. He inquired how such vital information had fallen into the wrong hands. Lu Xing echoed Su Li's concerns, suggesting that even if the information was unreliable, it had the potential to incite panic. In response, the director emphasized the importance of protecting the tower, emphasizing that the security of the entire city was at stake. Amidst the escalating tension, Director Wudafa's anger grew, causing him to involuntarily release a surge of awe-inspiring energy. Sula and Lu Xing were left astounded by the director's display of power. At that moment, the director retrieved his phone, only to discover a failed attempt to send a message. A wave of confusion swept through the room as everyone checked their phones, only to find no signal. Perplexed by the turn of events, they realized something was amiss. In light of the circumstances, a decision was made to split up. 1 man and 1 woman rushed down one corridor, while principal teacher Shin-Su Li and Lu Xing headed in the opposite direction. Time was of the essence as they hurriedly aimed to disseminate the news. As the director dashed around a corner, he stumbled upon an enigmatic portal. Bewildered, he couldn't comprehend how it had materialized or where the stairs had disappeared to. The others who followed him were equally puzzled. Sulai ventured closer to the portal, but the director intervened, cautioning that it could be a trap orchestrated by the Yerminghan to sever their connections with the outside world. He stressed the importance of first ascertaining whether they could reach other locations through the portal. They pivoted abruptly, heeding Def's warning, and hastily retreated in the opposite direction of the portal. Unbeknownst to them, a sinister presence began materializing from within the portal. It was a creature of otherworldly origin, adorned with scales and menacing claws, its eyes ablaze with an intense crimson glow. Sensing the impending threat, they sprinted together down the corridor, only to discover that the bodies that lay motionless earlier had mysteriously vanished from their original positions. Lu Xing pointed an accusing finger at the vacant spot, drawing their attention. With a mix of intrigue and trepidation, they hastened towards the site. The director lowered himself to the floor, running his gloved hand over the dusty surface, examining it closely. He noted the absence of blood, implying that the bodies had likely vanished rather than met a grisly demise. Their conclusion pointed towards the inexplicable disappearance of the bodies. However, Def interjected, stating that they might have been on the wrong floor all along. Lost in bewilderment, Sulai and Lu Xing glanced back at the corridor they had just traversed. The girl expressed her confusion, questioning how it was possible since they were undoubtedly retracing their steps. Their perplexity deepened when they realized that both the principal and the teacher were missing from their group. Anxious, they scanned their surroundings, their eyes darting back and forth. Suddenly, Sulai reached out and tightly clasped the girl's hand, momentarily catching her off guard. With a resolute tone, he led Lu Xing down the corridor, still gripping her hand. Although he felt flustered by the gesture, he emphasized the importance of staying together, given the absence of their director and teacher. Little did they know, a formidable dragon silently slithered along the ceiling above them. Inch by inch, it advanced, its predatory instincts honed in on the unsuspecting duo. As the dragon drew closer, its jaws agape, poised to consume the girl, Sulai's instincts kicked in. With lightning reflexes, he swiftly pulled Lu Xing away from the imminent danger, narrowly averting catastrophe. In that harrowing moment, their eyes met. Lu's wide with fear, the monster's gaze fixed upon its escaped prey.